Hello again everyone. So today I, the Dragon Empire, will share with you 7 ridiculously broken cards I want back and the reason why. So starting off with number 7, I have Dialga G level X. Dialga G level X was from Platinum base, and the Pokebody, which was like the previous predecessor of ability, said each Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, excluding Pokemon SP, which was a kind which belonged to trainer cards, uh, can't use any Pokebodies. So this was a Pokebody, and but this was on an SP, so it denied everyone else the use of Pokebodies unless they were a Pokemon SP. And the attack here says that flip a coin until you get tails. For each heads, remove an energy card attached to the defending Pokemon and put it into the lost zone. This is the reason I wanted it back. So what we are going to do here is we are going to play energy denial and just put this back, put all the energy in the lost zone, keeping in mind lost zone is kind of like a second discard pile, and which is impossible to get any energies or any cards in the lost zone out of the lost zone. So you will just energy denial them forever, so they cannot use any energy retrieval or something to get their energies back in hand. This is the reason it would be a very fun tech if it was back, and it was like a stage 1 because the Alga is a basic and the Alga G was a basic, and the Alga G level X would be just, you could just put it above it, and you can also use any attacks and abilities from its previous level which made it even broken. So if you had a good one out there, you could just break anything. The number 6, we have Dialga level X from DP 37, which was a promo card, and it said the Poke Power here said time skip. Once during a turn, you may have your opponent flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, your turn ends. If both of them are tails, after your opponent draws a card at the beginning of his or her next turn, his or her turn ends. This power cannot be used if the alga is affected by a special condition. Now, what was the difference between Poke Power and Poke Body? Was that Poke Body could only be used when the Pokemon was in the active spot, like it was damaged by or something. And Poke Power can be used anytime, so you could just use it sitting on the bench, skipping your turn or your opponent's turn, which could be very useful for many decks, like control decks which want their opponent to deck out. The attack here said Metal Flash, and during your next turn, the Alga can't use Metal Flash, and that's nothing very strange or something here, but it's a level X, so you cannot use Dialga G level X and Dialga level X at the same time on the same Pokemon. Of course, on different Pokemon it's allowed. So keeping this in mind, it would be very balanced deck. Next we have Slow King from Neo Genesis. Now Slow King here was a very good or a bad Pokemon depending on which side it was, your or your opponent's. It had 80 HP, it was a psychic Pokemon, and the first attack, a Poke Power here said Mind Games. Whenever your opponent plays a trainer card, you may flip a coin. If hit, that trainer card does nothing, put it on top of your opponent deck. This power cannot be used if is looking as asleep, confused, or paralyzed. So what you will do here is cards like Crushing Hammer, your opponent has to flip like one tails and one heads to just use it for energy denial, or else they are sure to draw into it next turn. And this set for any trainer, so they just keep on playing trainer cards because trainer cards are very important. Most deck plays about 32 of them, nearly 32. So, and 14 of them as supporters. So they play and then they have to just coin flip wait for the coin flip to be tails, or else they have to draw into it, that is play it again and no other chance if they have nothing else in their hand. The attack was not very good. It said for 3 psychic energy, Mind Blast, flip a coin if heads, this attack does 20 damage plus 10 more damage, and the defending Pokemon is not confused if tails, it does 20 damage. So it basically meant that if heads you do 10 more damage more than the base, that is you do 30 damage and leave your opponent confused. If tails you do nothing else. And the next we had was Gardevoir EX Delta species. To counter this was the best tech. Gardevoir EX Delta species said, Pokepower said, imprison during your turn before you attack. If Gardevoir EX is your active Pokemon, you may put an imprison marker on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Any Pokemon that has any imprison markers on it can't use any Pokepowers or Pokebodies. This power can't be used if Gardevoir EX is affected by a special condition. So that means that if Gardevoir EX was your active Pokemon and you could just deny them abilities for short term, take them as abilities. So you can just deny your opponent abilities. So for example, your opponent is using Rillaboom for example. So you put a imprison marker on that Rillaboom, so it cannot use any abilities, that is you are slowing your opponent down. If they're using Venusaur from Shining Legends, I guess. So they just want the double energy every turn, but they cannot use it because they have an imprison marker on them, and that means they cannot just have abilities. So this was a very good tech, and it would work for Slowking Neo Genesis, but there was a gap between them, so they were not legal in standard together. Next, what I want is Headringer. Headringer was a Pokemon tool, that is Steam Flare Hyper Gear, and as an item card it said that attach this tool to one of your opponent's Pokemon EX doesn't have any tool cards attached to it. And of course we know Pokemon EX don't are not so useful anymore and don't exist in the standard format, but we can keep it as a rule box Pokemon or a V or a GX, which would make it useful in the standard as well. And the effect here said attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to cost colorless more, and it's removed from the Pokemon for any reason, put it in the owner's discard pile. So that meant that you could have 4 of these attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then they cost one more. So for example, you are against ADP, you just attach it to ADP. Their attacks cost more and they cannot use turn to attack, and you buy a turn for yourself. And even if they play some other text to help them, but they cannot use it, or they have to just they're slowed down. Next we have Gardevoir from Pokemon Secret Wonders, and it said that it had a Poke power that said Telepass. Once during a turn, you may search your opponent's discard pile for a supporter and use the effect of that card as the effect of this power. It cannot be used if it's affected by a special condition. What this meant was you could just play your supporter for the turn, and you could use another supporter that was in your opponent's discard pile. That is basically 2 supporters a turn. So this was a very good tech, and it's like Magnus Zone dual brains, but that meant you had to have 2 supporters in your hand, while Gardevoir meant that you could use your opponent's supporter. This was a very good card, and I would like it to be back in the standard format. But before it's back, let's move on to number 1 broken card, which was Broken Timespace. All broken, so let's have a look at it. It was a stadium card that said each player may evolve a Pokemon that he or she just played or evolved during that turn. So that means you could just evolve a Pokemon that you played that turn. And what does that mean was you could play a stage 2 your first turn. And it was very good because since at that time existed a Machamp which was very overpowered. It's not overpowered, it has a very decent attack, but it made it overpowered because the reason was that Machamp was a stage 2, so you could evolve directly into the stage 2 turn 1. You could attack turn 1, and there was a supporter, I guess. I forgot its name, but we put your opponent's bench Pokemon into their hand. So you could just. And Machamp's first attack said if your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic, it is knocked out. So that meant that if you go first, so your opponent can only play basics, and you evolve. Turn one, you put your opponent's bench back into their hand. That that time you could play supporters on on your first turn, so you could just put them into their hand and just go for the first attack that would knock out any basic, and then you won the game. So it was like a very world-winning deck. So here are the 7 ridiculously broken cards that I want back, and there are Dialga G level X, Dialga level X, Slowking from Neo Genesis, Gardevoir EX Delta Species, Headringer from Phantom Forces, Pokemon Secret Wonders Gardevoir, and Broken Timespace from Platinum. Hope you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and you could suggest me any videos you would like in the future. You could write it in the comment box, or you could email me on my personal email, which I'll be mentioning in the description. And you could please subscribe me, please join my Discord. I have the link in the description. Thank you very much for watching.